in the relationship that you're in, do you feel like you are polar opposite to that person, or are you the same person? Well, today we're going to talk about our marriage and how our polar opposites attract. This is the Five Squad. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Five Squad podcast. My name is Evan Andrews.
I'm Haley Andrews.
And we are talking about something today that I'm honestly, I'm really excited to talk about this one too, because I think it's so funny that you and I are seemingly from the outside, we are complete opposite people.
Actually,
in terms of a lot of our personalities and.
Actually, when we got married, before we had to have marriage counseling, and we took a test. It was a requirement for our counseling, and the results that came back were literally 50-50. Like, the whole test, everything, we scored 50-50.
Yeah. And it's just so funny to me that, you know, because you think about the person that you are signing up to spend the rest of your life with, or even if you're not married to somebody, like somebody that you're like investing that time into, like you would think that
you'd want to be the same.
You would want to be the same. You would want to have a lot of the same interests, and
you would think that like in a friendship, in a work relationship, in a marriage, in a
and
whatever relationship.
And for whatever reason, in our particular circumstances, the fact that we are not those things
is the best
I
thing.
think it benefits a lot of how our lives go. Now, do I think it presents its own challenges sometimes?
Everything has challenges.
Sure, I definitely think that that's the case. But today, on this episode today, we actually have a lot of evidence-based topics in terms of what we're talking about, because some of the things that we are talking about are heavily rooted in scientific studies and things like that. And we didn't want to just kind of be up here and rambling about what's going on.
But I want to make sure, like, when we talk about each topic that we're going to reference today, like, we're definitely going to give credit where credit's due. So we're going to read a little bit more than our average.
But there actually is a science behind the attraction process of what attracts one thing to another.
Like why opposites attract?
Or not necessarily that, but just
the law of attraction.
There's a law of attraction, right? And it's both psychological and biological. And in a study done by the University of Kansas, they actually found that couples who are more similar in personality experience less conflict, but those who are different can have a more dynamic relationship. And this comes from a study in 2013. But I wholeheartedly agree with that.
I wholeheartedly agree with it too. And we both have some past experiences to back that up.
Yeah, I mean, my last relationship before you, I mean, we were very much like the same person. Very easygoing, timid people, quiet people, right? And I mean, if you've watched any of our past episodes and you've heard us talk about it, I'm not a conversation starter, right? So,
but neither was she.
Right. Well, so that, like, a lot of talks that probably needed to happen didn't ever happen.
And for me, in all of my relationships prior to our marriage were with, people very similar to me.
Big personalities.
Outgoing, very loud spoken, I would say confrontational type of, want to have control of a conversation. And the conversations that could have been, contained by one person or the other never were. So I definitely agree that, people that are different can have a more dynamic relationship because we
bring it out in each other.
Right.
Or
I bring out.
You bring out like my internal thoughts and all of that, and
you quiet
I calm you down in places where you don't need to be as loud and as boisterous and all of that. But there there are ways that personalities can complement and balance each other. And again, that kind of attributes to what we just said and how we work well with that. But, in another study that we kind of looked up a little bit by a Dr. John Gottman, they found that differing perspectives enhance like the problem solving side and adaptability in marriages.
And this I'd actually like to touch on because, in previous episodes, I mentioned about one of my main purposes in life was to establish and create a marriage that I had never seen or never thought I'd have. And it's this part of our marriage that I think has changed my life, honestly, because I've been able to, and I feel like more recently than anything, especially with podcast planning and things like that, but I've been a lot more vulnerable in sharing, like, okay, I'm going to tell you out loud, this is what I'm thinking and all of it, and I'm not going to hold back anything, and I'll come to you with an expectation like, hey, can you help me level this out? Like, I'm going to give it to you all the way that I wish I could say it out loud, or I would have if I didn't talk to you about it. Can you help me, maintain a little bit more composure if I'm going to share it elsewhere? And you will help me, like, not that I'm becoming less, because I never want to be less. I just sometimes
it's like putting structure to the.
I need the structure behind whatever it is that I'm doing, and I've been able to, because I know that you are my polar opposite. I've been able to invest in believing that you can help me in that area, and I think the same goes for you. I think you can come to me knowing like you may have all of these doubts or disbeliefs in whatever you might be thinking or planning, and you can come to me with an expectation with the expectation that I will help pull you out and show you to dream bigger or go bigger or and give you the tools you need to get there.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with all of that. Another, portion of why I think, or what goes into why opposites work so well together is the accountability factor of like our actions and the things that we do, right? Like, just as an example, if I know that like you don't want to do something because you're like avoiding it because you don't really have a rhyme or reason. Right. It's kind of just like, I would say like a shade of, I don't want to say laziness, but like, you're just like, I'm just not feeling it or whatever. And I know that it would be beneficial for you to do it because that's my side of how my brain works. Even if you don't do it to the best of your ability or whatever, but
you
like,
push me to do it.
Right.
When I don't think I can.
Right. And you do the same thing for me in those like lost periods where it's like, you're good at what you do, and it's like, again, it's that encouragement side of keeping me accountable to the things that, not looking in another direction.
And I think this goes right aligned with friendships too. It doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage. I think a lot of my younger friendships, I spent so much time with people that were exactly like me, and sometimes that accountability is lost when you're constantly with people that are just like you. And because it's more like a competition.
That's what I was just going to say.
It's more like a competition rather than
you can't be better than them.
Right,
they want to keep
you're both trying to be better than each other.
Right.
Whereas for us, especially because we're so different, we're constantly trying to hold each other accountable for being
because of what we know we can be.
And I want you to be a better you.
Yeah.
And you want me to be a better me, and we know how to pull each other and hold each other accountable. Yeah. Because there's no competition at all.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think. Totally.
But I think, having different viewpoints on different things, that leads to things like better decision making in our
conversation,
in our personal growth side of things, and just like evolving as people. Because what did you say last night? I think I texted it to you, but it was something, and you touched on it in a previous episode, but it was about something about like-minded people or whatever. Like you're not, Oh man, I can't remember
I know, I can't
exactly
remember
what
it
you
either.
said, but
it goes back to the competition. Like,
it was like you want to like the positive thing in like business and entrepreneurship is surround yourself with people who have the same goals, who want to achieve the same thing because they push you and drive you to.
Because look, if you're
but you can have a like-minded person in your life that is a trash
I know what
person.
It was. You would want to spend more of your time around like-minded people, not the ones that you're alike. Because the difference between alike and like-minded, there's a huge difference. Because if you're around a bunch of people that you're alike, you're gonna stay stagnant, right? You're not gonna grow. You're gonna compete. But if you're around like-minded people,
that means y'all just have like the same future goals.
Well, we may have this same mind, but we're gonna grow in different ways. Like, how can I grow in this environment based on your perspective? So you go to a networking event. Let's just use that as an example, right? We all want to succeed in an environment like that, right? Like, we all want everyone to be successful. I don't care if there's 10 realtors in a room. They all want growth. But if you're in a room with 10 people that are exactly like you, everybody's going to want to just be better than the other person. So you want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, not people you're alike. And that's why it's important to have that dynamic of difference for growth, really. I mean, whether it's personal growth, marital growth, relational growth, like you do have to have some differences. You just can't always be the same.
And that kind of segues a little bit, and we kind of touched on it briefly in this episode, but living with somebody or like hanging out with somebody or being friends with somebody that is too similar of a personality as you. I mean, there's a lot of potential challenges with that. And, like we said, we're citing a lot of sources today. But this was from a 2011 study at Berkeley. They found that too much similarity leads, and you already said this word, but it leads to the stagnation
and reduction of reduction of personal growth.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because again, going back to like my last relationship, like I really wasn't aspiring for much more than what I was doing. I kind of had just like this routine where I worked from home with my dad, and she lived with us and everything, and it just kind of was like, oh, it's 6 o'clock and time's up, and then we watched TV and went to bed, and it was just like. There was no growth. There was no like me pushing myself forward or her pushing me forward. Like,
and it's funny because for me, all of my previous relationships were centered around keeping the peace. I could never grow because I spent all of my energy and all of my time maintaining this peace kind of emotion instead of like trying like we do, trying to talk through things or to overcome things or to grow through things. It was never like that. It was we got to just stay right here, and not one person set the other person off or anything like that. So like, whereas yours was centered around silence, mine was just centered around loud.
And it's that lack of balance in those personalities that just...
You just never realize it, though. Think common sense. You would think.
Well, it's like
you would really think that you need to be around people you're like.
It goes back to like when you're a kid on the sandbox. It's like he has cool toys that I like to play with. I want to be friends with him, right? And I think we carry that into being adults, but that's what finds us getting in trouble with like, oh, I got a drinking buddy.
Right.
And then and then it just kind of
and it
whatever. Just doesn't. It's not a positive thing for you. Now, I'm not saying that your drinking buddies can't be people that push you forward, because they can be.
And you can have people that you surround yourself with that you're alike. We're just saying when it comes to those really important relationships, your marriage, your people that are going to help
the growth side of your life.
You want your inner circle.
I think it's a more beneficial thing to be an opposite than to be
I agree.
To be exactly alike.
Your inner circle definitely needs to be
the other side of the spectrum.
People that are opposite of you, because they challenge you. Yep. And if you're not challenged, you will not grow. You will remain stagnant. And I think we've learned that really a lot in our marriage. Like, we've always known opposites attract, right? And that statement, but we've really like dug deep into like, what can your perspective pull out of me to make me a better mom or a better this or a better that? And same thing for you, like,
because sometimes those like opposite I mean, those things I don't want to say we've fought about them, but we've had those disagreements and those arguments where it's like, I need you to be like this, and like, and it's, we're just not.
But it challenges your inner dialogue into how you can support, the person you love the most, or support that relationship. Yeah. And those challenges, just like anything else, it's the challenges that take you from here to here. And if you're not going through something, or when you're going through something, you're growing through something. Right. Yeah. And it really helps to have somebody that's different than you to help you grow through it.
Yeah. And that's a challenge. But that brings us to, again, we're wrapping up another episode here.
It's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? I think we have one more, and then we'll be in the top 1% there.
Woohoo!
But yeah, so anybody that has made it this far and either watching here on YouTube, or maybe you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you might be in the world, we just want to say that we appreciate it. And if you haven't already, we would appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel, like this video, share this video, comment on this video if we made you feel some type of way. Let us know what kind of relationship you're in out there, like, or something that you might be looking for.
Right.
Yeah. We want to know what everybody out there is looking for.
Do you think opposites attract? I mean, like, I want to know what they think. Oh, gotcha. Not you. You already told me.
Oh, yeah. 'Cause that's what we just talked about. But we want to just want everybody out there to remember that every day is a new chance to get it right and to keep pushing forward and to stay inspired. Thanks for watching the 5 Squad.